All right, welcome everybody to our webinar on satellite security. We'll have more joining us shortly, but we're going to go ahead and get started here. I wanted to thank everybody for joining us here. My name is Skip Sanzeri. I'm the co-founder, board chair, and chief operating officer at QuSecure. My background is out of Silicon Valley. Have spent a lot of time in technology, a lot of early stage, and really started this quantum effort about 5 years ago. One of the reasons was I saw the power of these quantum computers and looked at some of the algorithms that were being developed, like Shor's algorithm and Grover's and others. And when I combined that with the power of quantum computing, I thought there's really something happening here. We'll spend a little time on quantum computing during the presentation, but needless to say, these are very, very powerful computers that are coming our way. And what was evident was that these computers would have tremendous applications. They could help us in many, many ways. They're very powerful machines which can optimize things like logistics, can work on really advanced technologies like genomics, can even do weather prediction and chemistry, large molecule manipulation, handling electron interaction. These are all slated for quantum computing. But what was evident was the first job was not the application side, but how do we secure ourselves against these quantum computers? So we held an event in November 2018 at Wilson Sonsini in Palo Alto, the law firm. And the event was to kind of test and see the interest out there. And the seminar was on cybersecurity and quantum computing, the threats and more. And what we found was the audience was large and very interested. And this was back in 2018. We had about 150 people show up. So I had met some of my co-founders through the Band of Angels, Dave Crothamer, our CEO. I said to Dave, there's really something here we need to pay attention to. This is coming about very rapidly, and we have to deal with this. So we decided to launch a company, and we launched QuSecure to start dealing with this quantum threat and moving into post-quantum cybersecurity, and we've been at it ever since. So our charge is really to bring post-quantum cybersecurity to government and enterprise. And on this presentation, we're going to focus on satellite cybersecurity and solutions that we'll bring to the table here. Quantum computers can enable this power that, as humans, we may only dream of. You guys may have seen some of the recent quantum supremacy announcements. Google announced quantum supremacy in 2019, where they proved that they could do in 3 minutes what it would take IBM's Summit computer, I'm sorry, their supercomputer at Summit, called Summit at Oak Ridge. It would take about 10,000 years to do the same calculation. We also seen China announce last week that they were able to achieve something further than Google. We aren't able to really validate that at the moment, but nonetheless, we have to assume that our adversaries have all the same compute power that we do. So our objective is to help government and enterprise move into post-quantum cybersecurity to protect against this future of, to make sure that we have a way of life in the US that's protected. Of course, satellite data is at risk too. Space is an increasingly important aspect of US economic and military power. And the US considers the uninhibited freedom to operate in space to be of vital interest. There are a lot of counter space weapons out there, including kinetic, non-kinetic, physical, electronic. However, our presentation today is focused on cybersecurity and cyber attacks on satellite communications and data. These cyber attacks can target all sorts of data. They target the systems as well. Satellite communications, satellite to ground, antennas, ground stations, terrestrial networks, user terminals. These are all potential intrusion points. A cyber attack on space systems will result in data loss or theft, could be widespread disruptions or even permanent loss of a satellite. The US is the most dependent upon satellites versus any other nation. So disruption of satellite infrastructure is could be devastating. So in today's presentation, we're going to cover current satellite operations and vulnerabilities. We'll provide some background on quantum computing and the quantum threat as well for you. And we'll show you some currently deployable post-quantum cybersecurity solutions for satellites. At the end of the presentation too, we'll have Q&A. So feel free to batch up your questions. You'll see a Q&A box. Hopefully that's evident for you in Zoom, and you can put questions in anytime during the presentation. And we'll handle them all at the end with our cybersecurity experts here. If you would like to contact us after this, either to talk with us one-on-one, or if you'd like a copy of this presentation, you can send me an email. It's just Skip, S-K-I-P, at QuSecure, QuSecure.com. So, all right, let's get started. I'm going to introduce my co-presenters today. So first up is Barry VanHooser, our VP of Engineering at QuSecure. Barry, maybe you can give everyone some of your background here.
Yeah, hello, Skip, and everyone. So my name is Dr. Barry VanHooser. I have, as you can see, a Juris Doctorate and an undergrad degree in engineering physics and computer science. I'm also one of the fortunate few to be licensed as a United States patent agent, so I can do intellectual property at the same time. I have a total of 41 years of engineering and computer science experience with robotics, robotic vision, artificial intelligence, expert systems dating back, starting when it was brand new in the 80s, in the late 80s. Then I moved into consumer-based operating systems from IBM and microkernels, which are currently in use on the Apple OS X. From there, I went to what's called, at the time, was the most covert business in the 90s, which was E-Systems. And at least that's what was stated. And took a massively parallel system, as everyone knows which one that is, and created them into a massively distributed system for direct image processing. This system, as you know, was started by spaceimaging.com, and we know who started that. And that later was run by DigiGlobe and now Maxar, which followed into other three-letter organizations. Continuing after that, I went into distributed computing again at IBM, and then into large array storage systems. I'm currently an inventor on 14 allowed patents. 10 of them are under secrecy order, and of late, multiple provisional and utility patents in the quantum security area. Some of those we will be alluding to in this discussion. And in essence, in 41 years, I have designed and built multiple systems around the country that folks are still using today. Skip.
Barry, thank you very much for that excellent introduction. I'd like to introduce Aaron Moore, who's one of our strategic advisors at QuSecure. Aaron?
Good morning, Skip. Good morning, everybody. I'm just focusing on the space background that I've had. As Barry mentioned, 40 years is a long time. I'm not sure if I got exactly 4 years, but very close to it. Supporting primarily the Defense Department and the intelligence community with advanced technologies. As far as space goes, my entree into it was to be a chief systems engineer at the largest intelligence collection center in the world overseas. We had the Army, Navy, Air Force cryptologic elements. We had GCHQ, NRO, NSA, and ran this very, very large ground collection station called Menwith Hill, or Harrogate, depending on what part of the world you come from. So I was able to do that and create a brand new operating center there for the spacecraft, for all of the NTM overhead that we had, as well as the ground processing, tasking, collection, control systems, well over 1,000 various systems that we had to maintain and operate. And moved from there to NRO proper, where I was the chief architect for the Ground Enterprise Directorate, all of this, then I inherited all of the ground sites. So I had the entire NRO global enterprise for all SIGINT, IMINT, comms, systems, and was responsible for all changes to the baseline. So all of the engineering change boards, the architecture impact analysis, and then of course the migration of legacy systems into cloud and virtualization. I also at NRO became part of AS&T, the Advanced Systems and Technologies Directorate, specifically focused with the NSPO, the non-traditional SIGINT program office, a number of other flying special elements, and I created the Sentient program there and ran that for a little while. From there, I went to DARPA. I was a DARPA PM for space systems. I've got a couple things flying up there for that. Did a lot of research and development on virtualization of satellite buses, and was able to demonstrate live transfer of mission through virtual containers across the link, which was pretty cool. Went from there to Northrop Grumman, where I was the CTO for a lot of the advanced analytics that came off spacecraft. And I was inducted into NRO, or Northrop Grumman's Inventors Hall of Fame for some trade secrets that I created at the various classified levels that utilized space components. So I'll hand it over to you, Skip, and I guess we can get going.
Yeah, Aaron, thank you. Thank you very much for that introduction as well. A little more about the team at QSecure. The co-founders are on top. Dave Crothamer, he needs no introduction in Silicon Valley. He's chairman of the Band of Angels and also built one of the largest cloud partners out there called Intellinex. That was Oracle's largest cloud partner and exited that. Kosta Vilk, who is one of the top 5 quantum cybersecurity experts in the world, has a long history in the Valley and has now led panels, keynotes, and more on quantum cybersecurity, and really is helping to educate the world out there on these threats that are coming. Rebecca Crothamer, she was Forbes 30 under 30. She handles our product, by the way. She's Chief Product Officer. Forbes 30 under 30 for science and quantum computing. Also was named one of the top 12 women in quantum computing in the world, and sits on the Quantum Futures Board at the World Economic Forum, making some decisions on what to do with quantum computing in the future. So very important. Sarah McCarthy is one of the world's top quantum cryptographers. Cryptography in and of itself is a very difficult field. The quantum side of it has many opportunities and a lot of issues coming as well. So we rely on Sarah for the deep math that we need to create our products. Frank Knisny, those of you in the DoD probably know Frank. He just retired as CTO of the Air Force. He was at the Pentagon. Renee Haas is one of our advisors. He's the president and head of IP at ARM, which is in an acquisition process, as many know, with NVIDIA. ARM is really the leader in very specialized chips in the world. They're on about every phone, I believe, at this point. Louis Gasparini, one of our key advisors. He was a CTO at RSA. Louis was one of the folks that built the first online banking systems at Wells Fargo, and they, as you may recall, led the way in online banking. Vice Admiral Walter Davis was Director of Space and Electronic Warfare as well. So that's the team. And Aaron, I am going to pass back to you to take us through some of the satellite issues here.
Sure, no problem. I don't think this is going to come to as a surprise to everybody on this webinar. What we see from the U.S. perspective, both military, commercial, is threats to us. And those same threats, though, are opportunities to the rest of the world. So the rest of the world has finally been able now to afford the high technology that we have enjoyed for the last couple decades. The drop in price, the ubiquitous computing, everybody's level of sophistication has risen. I just have a little picture there. That's the ground site that I ran in the United Kingdom. When I first got there, there were, I can't say how many, but there were a lot less radomes than you see today. And this is just a small fraction of the site. Why that's important is that these little mushrooms are growing up all over the world. We've had our access to space and space products for 20, 30, 40 years. The rest of the world is just now looking at it. They're seeing the commercial imagery coming down. They're seeing the commercial signals collection, the SAR, and they're now trained to do the analytics that they've never had the opportunity to really exploit in the past. So they're seeing things that we've always seen, but today they get to see the same information. And that has really changed the game. Somebody once said that, you know, the future's already here, it's just not widely distributed. Well, now it's rapidly distributed. The future that we thought would keep us safe for decades has eroded just within the last 5, 6 years. And I think everybody has seen that in the advancement of technology. One of the big things of all of that is, how do we keep all of this secure? Well, how do we keep those secure comms between our devices, the IoT devices, between you and your financial institution, between a credit card access point and a fulfillment center? On and on and on. But it's all about the architecture and the security. And that is a problem today. Next slide. And that's because of this convergence, this hyperconnectivity, open source development, commoditized computing. I mean, everybody and their brother with a credit card, you can run TensorFlow, you can do your own AI ML, you can do your image analysis and classification. It's not a big deal anymore. These things used to just be the nation states, like when Barry and I were working on these image processing systems or SIGINT processing systems, not even more than a decade ago. Nobody could even come close to it. It wasn't an issue. But now, and we didn't even think about quantum really, not at that time. It's like, yeah, okay, it's out there. But we've got pretty strong encryption. Well, not so much anymore. We've got this huge proliferation of sensors across the world, IoT devices, some more secure than others. You've got IoT devices that are being now controlled by these massive botnets. The communications channels across botnets are secured. How do you maintain a security posture when your ground sites are all connected to this stuff? When commercial enterprises are also connecting in and mingling data and traffic across your network at more or less levels of security. It's a very difficult problem. And of course, quantum computing has the potential to expose all these secrets. So you can, and Barry's going to get into this, but if you're VPN, you think you're secure today, well, you know, anybody and their brother can collect that traffic that's encrypted today. And in less than 5 years, they're going to have a quantum algorithm that will break it open. And all of that will be transparent. Everything that you've done, everything that you've talked about that you thought was secure, proprietary, financial, classified information. We tunnel classified information across all the commercial networks now. So how well are we going to be able to withstand this? Next slide. One of our big problems is, of course, what we've got up there and that is operating today. There are a lot of systems in space that don't use any encryption at all. They use different coding mechanisms, but they are not encrypted in a lot of cases. There's no real standard across the entire satellite enterprise, especially when you're talking France and Spain and Norwegians, the Finns, the Poles. Everybody and their brother is launching a spacecraft. You've got tons of things coming out of Japan and South Korea. The legacy systems that are steering them and controlling them are wide open to that traffic being collected, even if that traffic is secure through current cryptologic algorithms. Still, Suite B level security is an illusion, or will be an illusion within about 5 years. And then you've got all these routing satellites that are out there. The traffic is moving point to point to point. You don't really know where your data is going. You don't know who has touched your data in an entire end-to-end link. You don't know when it's been collected or manipulated or interfered with in any other way. It's just such a massively hard problem. And of course, the ground has the same challenges. It's, you look at a ground site, you've got SCADA systems, you've got motor control systems, power distribution systems, rack distribution, power distribution, all the way throughout. And then being able to patch and maintain thousands and thousands of ground systems against future threats is really a Herculean task. And the unsecure transport of this information and or the ability for a bad actor to get that information and then to be able to decrypt it at some point in the future can be crippling to an enterprise. Next slide. So this is just a short history. I mean, this is obviously not inclusive of everything that's gone on out there. But needless to say, it just represents that the space enterprise is fragile, both on orbit and on the ground itself. Skip, I think that's a bit enough for background information, and I can hand it over back to you, I believe. Skip?
Next slide. Any?
Sorry about that. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. I want to do one more on this one. So with $500 worth of satellite TV equipment, was able to real time capture the signals and decrypt those, and he was instantly able to see names, addresses, personal information, etc. A lot of satellite security really isn't in place because when a lot of these birds went up, people thought, well, they're all the way up there, they're all the way out there, why would anybody want to hack those? But as Aaron said, these are really quite a problem right now. Let me see if I can move ahead here. Now sorry guys, my thing would not advance. Let me try this and see if I can do it this way. Oops, give me a second here. There, now it's advancing. Okay. I thought we should probably talk about quantum computing so everyone has really a basis on how powerful these machines are. So one way to think of these machines is compare them to classical processors. So if you've got, let's say, a set of machines with 50 processors that are working together and you add one more processor, you have 51. But in the quantum world, they use things called qubits, which are subatomic particles, to do the processing. Due to some of those subatomic particle capabilities like superposition and entanglement, they're able to act as an exponential processor. So in the same scenario, if you have 50 qubits, which is 50 processors, when you add one qubit, you double the power. It's not 51, it's double the 50. When you add one more to 52, it's not 52 processors, it's double 51. So this exponential increase adds up really quickly. Those of you may remember the old game where you would have a penny a day and double it for 30 days and you end up with $5 million. Well, same story with quantum. And this is why when these folks are starting to hit, let's say 100 qubits, Cold Quanta announced just last week that they're at 100 coherent qubits. Well, that's 2 to the 100th power. That's actually more, that processing power is more than the data that was created in the world, the entire world in the last year. It's over a yotta bit of data. At 2 to the 300th, just 300 qubits, you would have more processing power than there are atoms in the known universe. See, this power is something that I think we as humans are going to have a real hard time handling. Now, we can do, again, amazing things for humanity. I mean, like I said, genomics, chemistry and new materials creation, logistics, optimization, weather prediction, and many more things, because our classical counterparts, all the compute that we use today, won't have that capability. It just can't get there. We know that Moore's law, many of you are familiar with that, is running out of steam. That it's harder and harder to get this classical human construct of zeros and ones to go much further. So quantum computers have that, but again, at the same time, they're tremendous hacking machines. So the subatomic particles we won't spend too much time on today, but they do allow that exponential increase. And I think that's the thing to pay attention to. You also have IBM, Google, IonQ, PsiQuantum, and others out there saying that they're going to be at 1,000 qubits within 2 to 3 years. Well, 1,000 qubits, that's a number that's really hard to understand as humans. That's 2 to the 1,000th. I don't think I even have a computer that can calculate what that is, but it's one with a bunch of pages of zeros behind it. And by the way, that's one processor in one machine. So you can see where this is going, and this is why quantum is such a critical component of what we do now. So the problem today, many say, well, let's not worry about it. Quantum computers won't be here for 5 or 10 years. We don't need to do anything. Well, Aaron alluded to this when he was talking. The problem is harvesting. It's the harvesting aspect of it that we call steal now, decrypt later, SNDL. One of the reasons that we moved into this space 3 years ago is we met with Jack Hittery down at Alphabet X, Google's arm. And he said, guys, this problem will be of such scale, it'll create the largest upgrade cycle in computer history, because all PKI is going to need to get switched out, all of our current infrastructure. The reason why is, remember the power of these machines. Well, one thing they're really good at is factoring large numbers. And PKI is based on a single transaction. Now, a difficult one for classic, because classical computers have a hard time factoring large numbers. Quantum computers do it very easily. All you have to do is make that transaction happen, and you have access to all the data that you've stored and stolen over the past X number of years. And of course, you can break into anything you want that still uses that. That's why we are advising all government agencies and enterprise to start looking into this today, because it's that data that's getting stolen now. Mikhail Moscow put out a theorem that basically says you have to add the time it takes you to upgrade plus the lifetime of that data versus when a quantum computer is going to come online. So if you think about it, it takes 5 years to change out your infrastructure, and you need your data protected for, let's say, 25 years. That's 30 years of availability. Well, we're hearing that these machines could be online with enough power in as soon as 5 years. But let's say it's even 10 years. Well, your data is exposed at that point, for basically 20 to 25 years. Now you look at data such as military, government secrets, some healthcare information. It's 75 years of protection necessary. So that data is exposed for 60 to 70 years. And this is the big problem that we're facing. So that's why we just recommend don't wait. In fact, one of our key sponsors, David Wittenberg at Hanscom Air Force Base, has told us many times, it's already too late. Data's out there. Now, we're not fatalists. We're not giving up. That's why we exist. And, we hope that all of you are paying good attention to this. But nonetheless, we need to start working on it. We also are working with the Hudson Institute. Arthur Herman put out a paper where they did an econometric study of a quantum attack. Now, this is the most advanced study we have ever seen on what a quantum attack would do. And they did a simulation on attack on the banking system. And they found that a single attack, just one attack from one machine, could cause up to $2 trillion in damage to the financial system. This is what we're up against, folks, and we need to start moving now. This gives you a little bit more depth on how quantum computers can reduce the public key encryption key sizes. So many of you have heard of RSA and ECC. Well, based on Shor's algorithm, it reduces the asymmetric key sizes to 0, which means there's no protection there. This is the fun thing. So as Dave says, if at your next dinner party, if you want to amaze and astound, when somebody asks you, hey, how many qubits does it take to crack RSA? Of course, that question probably won't come up, but in case it does, the answer is 2n plus 3, 2 times the key length plus 3. So RSA 2048, it would take about 4,100 qubits to crack. Now, if IBM and these guys are going to be at 1,000 qubits here in a few years, you know that and when you get to 1,000, getting to a few thousand is going to be a little bit easier because you're going to have your efficiencies. And so that means we think that this is just around the corner. Okay, great. I am going to hand over to Barry VanHooser, our VP of Engineering. Barry, take it away.
All right, thanks, Skip and Aaron, for setting up a very broad state of the current satellite landscape, issues, and history. So let's start out with a bang. So there was a recent announcement, as was alluded to, of an unsecured Chinese announcement of the 66-qubit quantum computer that took 70 minutes to do what conventional computers take 8 years. So that should scare us. Of course, this is a system that is only going to be used for science and good, right? We know that for a fact, right? Yeah. I know everyone on this call knows that that's not going to happen. So how confident does everyone feel that this system has the power to probably walk through our current security with ease? This single announcement with the information, will take, it'll make us not sleep. So I see this as in the immortal words of the movie that Harrison Ford was in, a clear and present danger. I think it's time that we stop talking about it, and if it's coming, and start executing and fortifying our systems. So the good news is that we'll talk about things that can successfully combat this threat. As everyone knows on this call, acutely aware that we are behind on securing the entirety of these sensitive information systems from bad actors and individuals. So what are we looking at here? This is just a simplistic base view of a system, a satellite system. You have your mission software in blue, and then in the light blue is something that we've kind of come up with. So you have functional mission software. And with that mission software, you're going to have the ability going across the 1553 bus where all that is clear. And I'm sure some people didn't realize that every single 1553 bus is clear transmission. So if you have a multi-hosted system, all those other sensors can read and capture if necessary. So what we're proposing and what we've kind of come up with is a way to encrypt, decrypt, encapsulate, decapsulate, pass datagrams around in a secured manner. It's like you can use we're using here the common PEP satellite framework, which is the TCP emulation, bringing those packets down. Except now it's in a quantum state. So at the base station, that's where your quantum generation of entropy source comes into play. Now you have a complete quantum system from the base station, from the terminals, which are also usually not secured, all the way through to the base station, through the transmission, through up to the satellite. So I know that there are specific customers that would shut down the VPN to bring down images faster. So that means that you're bringing everything down in the clear. So what if you didn't have to have a VPN? What if you could just bring it down? Because it would be in an encapsulated quantum session. That I think is something to think about. So this is just the base. We add in a generation of entropy source that does not exist today in these systems. So right now we have simple security, like Aaron specified. It either has triple DES or it has none at all. And with this 66 qubit quantum computer, guess what? That's going to walk right through that. So you're essentially non-secured. So next slide. All right, so with this one, what you can see is we've set up this as essentially how you can create a mesh network or a secured channel across all of the entities. So when you look at the security of a satellite on legacy systems right now, so when they're communicating via the further another slide, I'll show the hardware that's in there. They're using older technology and they're moving things around that way, as we know. So what I designed was a secure channel that's quantum based, so you can make mesh networks today and move data around and have all this information such that it will not be penetrable. Because right now the security that is used is very lax. Again, how Aaron's stated, triple DES or none. So all of this stuff, this is how that kid with a $300 setup was able to capture everything. So now, if we look at the image inside, that's the 1553 bus. Now, let's assume multi-payloads. Every single payload is going across that bus, which means, like I said before, it can all be captured. So if any sensor at any time gets compromised, you can capture everything on that satellite, T and C, everything. So this is where some of this is coming into play. What we've done is, we have an easy way of it's C source code that gets embedded. You can do in-flight updates. So everything would be much simpler to just help our legacy systems today. Let's see. So essentially, we have encrypted sessions from satellite all the time without speed degradation. No need to have a VPN because now you have a secured transmission channel. So now you're getting speed. Now you're moving things securely at speed, at line speed. We facilitate communications established with data centers, and there's the talk today as far as putting data centers up in space. Same issue. If those satellites are not communicating correctly and or securely, now all of the data is compromised, because this will allow us to bring in new satellites and have them quantum ready and be able to connect up to the legacy satellites in the same network and be secure. Same type of situation. So next slide. So this is what we see on the right-hand side. This is what you saw on Aaron's picture for the base station. So this is the right side, everybody understands. So, but the left side is the piece that is that will bring down all of the right side. So the left side is the infrastructure. We've already seen multiple attacks on infrastructure. So when an electrical system or an HVAC or a power distribution gets taken out, how many pieces on the right side go down? And if that goes down, what happens? It's like you've lost communications, you've lost transmission, there are so many different disruptive instances that this can be catastrophic, especially in time of, let's say, a mission that's occurring, or just anything that could be critical at that moment. So with the base stations, so we look at the base station as a gigantic IoT type of situation. So that's, with base stations, you have servers and you have other sensors and you have the HVAC, you have all these things that are all IoT, and they all need to be protected. And right now, they're not all protected in the same manner. So this, again, we could have a fully quantum-based security common system across with high entropy via a quantum random number generation into the protocols. So this is one of the things that I think is part of it. So here we've listed all the radios of what's flying today. All these systems. So here's the interesting part. All these radios, all these systems, it's not the technology that is bad. It's just what's being transmitted across it. So if we were to secure the transmission across all of these devices, now we don't have to have the geek squad from Best Buy go up to the satellites and swap these things out, which we know is not going to happen. So these things are going to be flying for quite a while. So we can encapsulate these transmissions from these specific devices and do secure communications and secure commands, secure everything in a quantum state that will allow us to not worry that we are exposed. So right now, this country is exposed. Everyone understands that. And even with, the unsecured announcement of the 66 qubit, it makes you wonder what the secure announcement or what is behind the secure version of that. Because we know that the Chinese probably have a department right now working on how do we break into the United States. So that's where we're at on this one. So our solution, as we know, under FIPS 140.2 and FIPS 140-3, waivers are being associated with that so that we can get into a quantum state today, because the government knows that this is a problem. So they're like, do anything necessary to get in there. So when we do this, we have a novel software-based solution. We have true randomness in a cryptographic seed because this is a pure quantum random number. And it's like the secure transmission protocol that we have. Imagine a secure session in flight, keys constantly randomly being exchanged. So no patterns. This is a big key. So I had done, like I stated earlier, I'd done artificial intelligence, and everyone knows that artificial intelligence goes after pattern-based recognition so that you can break in. And that's the new techniques that they're doing, pattern and ML. So we specifically designed this so there are 0 patterns. So it's just nonstop cryptographic information that no one knows what it is. It's just going by. There's no way to understand what does this really mean. So that is a huge piece of this that people need to understand, because currently with VPNs, you have patterns. With the current technology and the current transmissions, you have patterns. Everything has a pattern. This has no patterns. Next slide. So our solution as such, we have session key frequency updated, driven by quantum entropy. As you can see, you can read the slide. We are able to scale. We have crypto agility because we utilize all of the NIST algorithms as well, and others. And we'll be able to incorporate even more. Because remember, this is an easy reference architecture. So no agents, no libraries, nothing like that. This is something that can be embedded into the build, which is what these agency, the agency or the defense contractor has. They have the build for these satellites. They know how to put the things in, do the in-flight updates. So we can do this today. We can secure things today. Whereas, with QKD and all these other aspects that are going off with quantum systems, I know the NSA has dropped that, which is good, and There are other avenues that like this that are just significantly better to do. Next slide. All right, so this slide is just basically telling you, like I stated before, we handle all of the devices, not just satellite devices. So we look at every device as, you can look at every device as an IoT device, whether it's a sensor on an HVAC, or it's a power distribution, or it's a server, or it's a satellite, or it could be a sensor someplace else. We are able, with this reference, to be able to go in, create secure channels and quantum-based secure channels. So you don't need to have VPNs. You don't need to have other things to handle your encryption, because it's always being transmitted in an encrypted state, which raises the entropy and the security of that entire system immediately. So with that, Skip, I'll hand it back to you.
Fantastic, Barry and Aaron, thank you so much.